As a real estate agent, have you ever wondered how to set a buyer's appointment and what it looks like?
See, for a lot of folks, they have kind of muddled through real estate. They've kind of figured stuff out as they go along. And so this morning, what we wanted to really walk you through is how do you set buyer appointments? And then what does the actual buyer presentation look like? So my name's Alan Rich. I'm the managing broker here at Max One Realtor Partners.
My name is Ming Richardson, the compliance broker for Maximum One Realty and Realtor Partners.
Now, setting up buyer appointments is really important. It's one of the most important things that we do because, like, on every transaction, we have a buyer and we have a seller. But
Correct.
now the rules are a little bit different in that we must have a signed buyer brokerage agreement prior to showing any property. And so the days of just meeting clients at a door of a house, of just kind of winging it or not having representation when we meet the client, those days are gone. And so that means that we have to be very intentional about how we set up appointments with our buyers and that we set appointments with our buyers in advance, right?
Correct.
So the first thing that we want to encourage you to do is that, like, well, break it into two parts. First is anytime that you're talking to a buyer, generally speaking, you're most time going to be meeting with them over the phone, and you would want to get some basic information from them while you're on the phone. Now, please, now we're going to give you a piece of advice, and it may sound old school, right? That's okay. Old school still works, and what that advice is write everything down. When you're talking to them, when you go and meet with them, write everything down. You ever go to a restaurant and the waitress doesn't write down your order?
Well, that's a special waitress, and there are some that has photogenic
Yeah,
or
but the
some type
whole
of
time,
memory.
right? I'm sitting there going, she's gonna goof it up. She's absolutely gonna goof it up.
He
She's
does
gonna
that.
mess the order up. And guess what? A lot of times when they don't write it down, they mess the order up. Same thing goes with us. And so when you write it down, it gives people a sense of calm, peace.
Well,
You know
then
what
they
you're
feel
doing.
like you're paying attention to what they're saying, their needs and wants. So when you don't write it down, you're just going off cuff. They're like, okay, did they really took good notes, or is it just whatever gets
Right.
there?
But the other thing is, you really need this information, right? You want to be able to have all this information so that you're able to go over it with them and that you're able to have all your duckies in a row, as it were. So when we get folks on the phone that are talking about interest in a house, that kind of stuff, of course we want to get the basic information, but we want to get like all the names of all the parties involved, their phone numbers, email addresses, all that. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to come across like you're putting a
Right.
spotlight up on them. It's not an interrogation kind of thing. You do want to gather that information. The other thing that you want to do, and this sounds bizarre, but you want to ask easy questions.
Right.
You need to ask questions that are so easy for the buyer to answer. You don't want to jump right into, and how much money do you have? Right? That's whoa, easy, easy. I don't even know who you are yet. Right?
Right.
You want to ask very easy questions. Things like, hey, tell me about where you live now. How long have you lived there? What do you really like about where you live now? What don't you like about where you live now? Are you owning or do you rent now? Like, all these are very important questions because it's going to help set up the rest of the questions you have on there. What's your favorite room of the house? Which room do you spend the most time in? See, like, those are all very easy questions for a buyer to answer. They're also questions that kind of set you up for the future, right? So if the buyer tells you, we love the kitchen, like for us, we entertain in our kitchen, that kitchen is going to be an important
Mm-hmm.
thing moving forward. If they say, oh, well, we love our master bedroom, this is someone that really wants to have that master suite kind of thing. And so you're trying to pick up on clues, but what it is when you ask questions, and really a buyer appointment is just you asking questions by and large, you give them control of the conversation. I may ask the question, I'm really the one in control, but when I give them the opportunity to speak and to talk and to explain what they're looking for and what they're thinking about, now they feel like they have ownership because they talk more than I
Mm-hmm.
do. And see, that's one thing that a lot of people miss out on. Like, a buyer presentation is not me selling, it's me asking questions, taking really good notes because I want to be able to help guide and direct them. So don't get into this idea that you got to go sell anybody. If you sell, like we're not real great salespeople in that aspect. We're not trying like, hey, what can we get you in a house today? That kind of cheesy
Fake fancy.
realtor. Yeah, yeah, that's just bleh. So, like you want to get all these kind of easy questions out, and then you want to try and set your appointment. You want to get an appointment, and preferably someplace quiet where you can meet. You can meet them at their existing home. You can have them come into your office. We really like bringing them into the office.
Right. For safety and security reason, because we never know what's out there. And agents, please use your forewarn and double check, make sure the buyer or the seller, whoever you're meeting with, is who they say who they are. Now, sometimes that, folks have a family line, so it may not be directly that person, but just kind of inquires that you inquire about it during your conversation as well. So
Yep.
safety
Now,
is first and foremost for you guys.
yeah, anytime your spidey sense goes off,
Mm-hmm.
listen to it. Now, the next thing here that we want to jump into is like, so now you have an appointment. You go meet them, do the pleasantries, shake hands, kiss babies, that kind of stuff. But then once we sit down, we always start off with, hey, are you familiar with how real estate works here in Atlanta, McDonough, whatever, that kind of stuff? And it doesn't matter what their answer is. Because if they say, yeah, I'm really familiar, well, I say, you know what? I prepared a packet for you as well. And if they say, no, I'm not familiar, you know what? I prepared a packet for you. Now's the time when you want to
Right.
give over your buyer's presentation to the buyer right then. And then you want to make sure that you're instilling some confidence in there, right? And so I'd like to be able to talk to you about my process for helping you find the best home and not having to overspend for it. So, do you have time for me to go over my process with you? And most of the time, the buyers are like, "Whoa, a realtor with a process? What's that?" Yeah, absolutely. Go over it with me. I want to hear all about it, kind of thing.
And there may be a couple unicorn out there sometime what says, no, I just want to buy a house at this price and what have you. So just get the highlights. What is it that they really are looking for and go from there and go through the steps as in progression, because sometimes I know that is an overview of the presentation. It is a good product, but sometimes people get overwhelmed. So if you feel like they're overwhelmed, just let them know here's a booklet for you to review. When you have a moment.
Yeah,
Have any question, please call. I'm always available.
yep.
So
But
I
I
have
mean,
run into a few that was just overwhelmed with the entire process. So rather than trying to go through the whole entire process with them, I'll leave the booklet, but just do a quick overview.
yeah, I know, and honestly, we don't normally even go through the book nearly as much. We give it more as a reference point than
Mm-hmm.
anything. So once we after we hand them the
The buy
our buyer
presentation.
presentation, then we sit down and we say, okay, let's talk about what types of properties you're interested in, because I don't want to miss out on any properties that you may be interested in. And so I want to go through the full gamut, the whole list. So of course you're going to want to see properties that are listed in a multiple listing service. Are you interested in new construction? Yes or no? Have just in the last month or two, are there any properties that you were driven by that you want me to check out? Are you interested in REO, bank owned, distressed properties? How about courthouse sales, short sales, for sale by owners? Now, most of your buyers are not going to say, "Yay, let's go after the courthouse steps." But
They might
well, they might, but the
be
whole idea is
prepared.
this is a chance to have a conversation about what that's really like. Oh, well, courthouse sounds interesting. All right, well, you got to have cash up front. There's no financing, and if you buy a dog, you're stuck with a dog. I
Right.
mean, like you just this is the chance. What you want to make sure you come across is that I'm here to be your expert for all things, and this is a great chance to have that conversation, right? Um, Next thing I like to do, and this one you have to be very, very sensitive about how you do it, because if you ask this question the wrong way, you will turn people off, right? It will come across wrong. And what you want to say is, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10 if we find the perfect home today? Because what you don't want to come across is, hey, what can I do to get you in a house today? But you do want to come across with, like, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10 on if we found a perfect home today? Now, we're going to, generally speaking, for us, most people come in at about a 7, right? Well,
Mhm.
about a 7. And then what, regardless of what number they give you, right? Then the follow up question is equally important. And that is, what would need to happen to make you a 10?
Mhm.
And see, what you're looking for here is you want to come up with a checklist for you as well as for the buyer that says, this is the things that we need to get done to make sure that you're comfortable buying. And so it could be things like,
Mhm.
so like what would need to happen? Well, I need to find the perfect home. Okay, got it. Write that down. All right. Well, do I have to get financing together? Would I have to sell? Do I need to set up a move? Do I need to coordinate with my job or with transfers? Or there's just so many things
Mhm.
that could be in there. But see, what you end up with afterwards is like two, three, four items that need to be addressed. Because you as the realtor, if you don't address these issues, they're really not ready to buy, right? And so, you want to make sure that you're being really conscious about that. And not that we're trying to force anybody into it, but once you help them break that down of, I can do these four things, I'm ready to move on, you're overcoming barriers with your client. It really is vitally important.
Not only that, you prep them to be ready so when the opportunity does come, they can jump on it versus like, oh, I need to go get financing. Oh, I need to do this. There's nothing worse than writing a contract not knowing whether or not your client is already been approved versus just say pre qualified.
Yep. Now I take a piece of paper and I just across the paper. I've already got my paper out because I'm taking
Sure.
notes, right? But I write features and whys, and next I say, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, what is it? What are the top features that you're looking for? And I have them go through and give me their top features. Now, I have on my paper features, why. I don't get the whys yet. First, I'll get features. Well, we want, we probably need we need at least a 3 or a 4 bedroom. We want 3 bathrooms. We want, we want a house on the golf course. We want whatever it may be, right?
We want a basement. We don't care whether or not it's finished or unfinished. We
Yeah,
want a pool. We want an acre, or we don't want an acre. We want to have a very small yard, so we don't have to maintain it.
yeah.
We want a house with a fence. We want this, what have
HOA,
you,
no
right?
HOA, all these kind of
School
things.
district is probably one of the most important thing for
Well,
most your
if they
buyer.
got if they got yours,
Well, it's for not just children, but for resale
yeah,
value.
that's true.
So, and also, as far as, the GBI and DEA website, I always point those out and let them know these are, your resources to review.
Now, once they give you all your top features, you got to stop, go back, and say, okay, tell me why are
Mm-hmm.
these features? Because what's really important is understanding their why. So they say, well, we really need kind of a 4 bedroom home because I'd like to have an office. My wife wants to have an office. We need a bedroom so
Mm-hmm.
when the kids come visit, plus our bedroom. And you're like, okay, if we got a big enough office, would you guys be okay
Share.
working together? That kind of stuff. Because what you're looking for is their whys, right?
Correct.
And then you want to go all the way down through the list. You said that you wanted to live on the golf course. Why do you want to live on the golf course? Well, I like the idea of looking out the window and there's this great view and I don't have to mow it, right? And that kind of stuff. And by the way, most people that live on the golf course don't play golf. So all these kind of things you want to go through and get all of their whys, because here's the big trick. This one's vital for you to understand, right? People buy their whys, they don't buy their features, right? We can't tell you how many times people would say, I want to live on the golf course. And then we sold them a house down off Lake Jackson because it wasn't about the golf course. It was about, I just want to have this amazing view and I don't want to have to do anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you want to go through and you want to get all of your why, all of your features and whys. Then you want to do the same thing on locations, all of your locations and all of your whys, right? Next, you want to talk about setting appointments on the calendar, because it's not going to do any good to have a buyer and not have some appointments set up. So, how often would you like to review properties? When are you available to go out and start looking at properties? Set that up on the calendar right then. Set
Mm-hmm.
up times when you're going to go look at properties. I know that may seem pushy, but it's really not. are we moving forward or not? Right? I mean, like the whole idea in meeting here is that we're
Most
setting
of the time,
this.
the buyer is very motivated to go
Yeah,
see in the
absolutely.
house, so that's not a buyer issue.
Yep.
But you do need to know when their availabilities are, and also inform them that for Occupy Home, there may be a timeline lag for
N-
approval.
Yep. Now you got to talk about money, and so I always start off with like, "Hey, will you be paying cash or will we be getting a loan?" And they always smile because they think that I think that they can pay cash. I know the problem. Most folks are going to be getting a loan, but they like when you ask them if there's going to be that. And then, have you met with a lender yet? And do you have a loan arranged, or would you like a second opinion? Um, if they have not met with a lender, I stop right then and I hand them my phone, or I say, either you can call them or I'll step away and give you my phone. But right now, there's no point in moving forward if we don't know how much you're qualified for. And your lenders will get you qualified over the next 10 to 15 minutes right now.
Well, that's a little aggressive in my personal opinion, and I don't like to work that way too. But I also give them the option if they want to do it after the appointment, they can do that. But before we even move out to start looking at a property, that they would need to go and get this started.
Well, I want them. I want to have a clear idea of what we can
Hmm.
afford, and I find that it's ridiculous to spend a lot of time and to go through and even move any farther forward and not have an idea of how much home they can afford. Because as soon as they look for a $350,000 home, and I find out they're qualified for 250, nothing looks adequate. Nothing
Correct.
is doable, right? So I get them with that lender right then. I don't need the full pre-approval, but we need to have a clear idea. It should happen while we're at this meeting. I want my lender to talk to them right then and right there, right? So because like I can't move forward without this. Now they may need to finish things up. They're going to need to submit docs, that kind of stuff. But I need to get them talking to a mortgage professional right away.
And sometimes some of them may already have a
They
pre-qualified.
may
Yeah,
absolutely.
so just ask the question. Be sensitive about it, because
Yep.
sometimes when it comes to financing, some people are very sensitive about their
Yep.
financing, and sometimes it's not about that they can't afford it. Sometimes they just don't want that large of a
Yep.
payment.
Well, and that's what you want to say. You want to make sure that like what's your price range? How did you come up with the price range on here? Um, how much of a down payment do we have to work with? That may seem like touchy conversations, but at this point, by the time that we actually are talking about
Mm-hmm.
money, we've already done all the easy questions. We've talked about
Correct.
properties. We've worked on building relationships up to now, but we can't move forward without talking money. And so being able to say, like it's totally acceptable to say, how much down payment do we have to work with?
Mm-hmm.
What's your price range? How did you come up with that price range? Like to make sure that they really understand. Are they comfortable with what that payment's going to be like? Because I don't want to make them house poor either.
No.
Now, at this point is when you have to step back and like put your thinking caps on a little bit here, because at this point you have a basic price range of what they're looking for, and then you have their needs, wants, desires, features, whys, all that kind of stuff.
In location,
Yep.
because housing prices is based on location
Yep.
with those
Yep.
features.
So, but you have to ask yourself, do their needs and the price
Match.
match? Right? Either it does or it doesn't. If it doesn't match, it's not like we can just create inventory. Somebody's like, well, I'm looking for that 5 bedroom home on the lake for $100,000. Well, I can look all day. It's never going to be there. It's not a realistic option. So if you have to be the adult here in the conversation and say, like, what you're looking for is not real. It's not a reality. So what are some of your whys that you're willing to compromise on?
Hmm.
Is there any flexibility in price? Do you have any additional resources? Are you willing to drive till you qualify? Meaning, are you willing to go into outside areas? Like, if you have this conversation right up front, it makes it much easier. What we find is that our buyers are way more creative than we are. Sometimes we have this idea of what this perfect home is, but once you start getting into it, like for most of our buyers, it's about affordability. They have to be able to afford it. And so just because you may not be a fan of townhomes or modular homes or living in this town or this place or this
Correct.
location here doesn't mean that you should be putting that bias into this conversation.
Well, ultimately, you won't put the control into the buyer with what their needs are and their ability, and what they're what I call negotiable, non-negotiable features that they're looking for, and inform them. Say, with all these features, here are multiple listing with those features, but you can see
Yeah.
there's nothing listed at that price, or you can say with all these features, this is what you're looking at. We can either go up or down, however you want to do it.
Right. And but see that's why we like to meet at the office, right? Because then we can pull up properties, put them on the big screen, put them,
Yep,
share them on our laptop, that kind of stuff. You want to make sure that like if you can show them properties right then and there, you were really really off to the races. You also want to be able to have additional conversations about everything that they're going to need moving forward. First thing is that look, if we find a house that's about 90% there, I want you to still consider it, right? Um, if you find that home that's 90% perfect, you have to be ready that no home is going to be absolutely perfect. Even if you build your own home. And I like to
right.
say it, to the buyers, have you ever built your own home? We have. And even when we built our own home, now looking back, I wish we'd put the door on the other side. I wish that we had made the shower stepless. I wish we had done these things. Even when I build a house, it's not perfect. And by the way, my life changes. What I wanted when I
Mhm.
built that house and what life looks like now is a
Correct.
little bit different, right? And so just because it's not going to be 100% perfect, you're going to miss out on houses that go down there. See, good homes go quickly. Ming's favorite line here, if you're going to sleep on it,
You might not sleep in it.
that's it, right? So I just suggest that you take action on that home. Once we have a list of homes, we're going to set up appointments to go and see them, and we're going to print you off property information sheets on each one of those on here. And then we like to say, "Do you want to know your odds of success?" And their ears perk up and go, "Ooh, yeah, yeah, I'm very interested in that." And like we said, look, 60% of our buyers find their home on our first appointment out, and over half of our buyers find it on the second time out. And that means that basically 80% of our buyers choose the home that they end up buying on our first or second appointment out.
Correct.
This does two things. One, it gives them permission to buy. I mean, I can't tell you how many times the very first house we take them to,
They're
they
like,
fall in love.
it's
It's
the first
oh so great,
house.
but it's the first one. I don't feel
Right.
like I should buy it, and then they miss out on the great house because it was the first one. Look, that's what you wanted from me, was to find you the perfect house, right?
Yep.
So but it helps if you can give them permission to do that. The other thing is that I want them to understand that the purpose for us being here is for them to buy a house. It's not so that I can show you 500 houses over the next 4 months, right? I want you to understand that when we go look at houses, it's because my intention is that we're probably going to be writing a contract on one of these. Now, you do want to also have the nuts and bolts conversation. Look, once we find that perfect home, we are going to present an offer. We're going to talk about price, terms, time frame, contingencies, inclusions, exclusions, all that kind of stuff. Once we prepare that offer, I'm going to go through with you, start to finish, cover to cover, and we're going to go through the entire contract and make sure that you're not signing something that you don't know. Please don't miss on this. It's very important. Contracts intimidate clients, and they want to know that you're going to protect them and not just shoot them something to hit authenticine and they don't know what they
A
signed
remind.
or remine or whatever it might be, kind of thing, right? Um,
Well,
even,
the only thing is that make sure that you stress the importance verbally and follow up with an email with those
yeah,
timelines, because a lot of time when folks are excited about a product that a potential home they're getting ready to move into or purchase, they tend to forget certain things. So it's good for you to have a template of items on timeline, and also some of the consequences once you pass those timeline.
yeah.
um, fill in the timeline, but everything else should be a template.
Yeah. Now, if you can't meet them in person, you can do this over, like through Authenticine or Remine or
Right,
whatever.
Zoom.
But just say, look, when it comes, open up that document. Let's go through it together over the phone and still
Correct.
make sure that you get that across. Now, once we actually get an agreement, I'm going to need earnest money. We will schedule a home inspection. You need to be prepared to pay the inspector. I will meet you at the home inspection. We're going to go over all those things together. Smart agents go to the inspection because that's the biggest place where we lose more deals than anything on there. Once we finish that inspection, we're going to go through and we have to make sure that we get final loan approval. Your lender is going to order the appraisal.
Correct. And just remember, your lender's not going to order appraisal until the agent or the buyer tells the lender to order it, because that is an expense up front for the buyer
Yep.
that they may not recoup if the loan does not process through, or the buyer change their mind. If you order too early before due diligence, meaning inspections, you may find out that this house has got a lot of deferred maintenance and this is not what you want,
Yep.
and but yet they paid appraisal. But make sure whatever you do, the timeline is good and is within your contract
Yep.
term.
They're also going to need to get their homeowners insurance. Please have them shop around because there's a lot of differences out there, and homeowners insurance has
Correct.
been just going up for years and years and years, that kind of stuff. Now, you also want to make sure, listen, don't do anything with your credit. Matter of
Yep.
fact, after this goes through, freeze your credit. Don't buy a car. Don't buy furniture to put in the house because you're going to mess up your debt to income ratio. Don't go get a Kohl's card. Don't change jobs. Don't miss payments. All these kind of things. It may seem rudimentary, but make sure they know this right up front. And then the other thing that you want to make sure that you do before you wrap up is say, listen, in order for me to show you properties and to be able to negotiate on your behalf, I
Mm-hmm.
need your permission in the form of a buyer brokerage agreement to move forward because I work for you. So these are all the services I provide. These are the fees that I charge. Who can cover my compensation? And so you also want to talk about we could request that the seller pays some
Well,
or all.
and what you have to spend it too, sometimes you need to let the buyer know that the purchase price does include your compensation that the buyer has committed to pay you. So whatever offer you made, it will include that compensation. Now, if the seller says no, the buyer, either we can increase the sale price or decide
Everything
this
is a
is yeah
negotiation at this
decide
point.
this is not the house, or the
Yep.
buyer feels like that's too much, we just can't do it, we're this is it. So you have to decide whether or not the buyer has to decide whether or not they want to walk away if that's the case. But and today, just depending on the market and where you're selling at and the temperature of the market, there are areas that are buyers market, there are areas that are sellers market. So once again, know your craft, know your area you're exploring to, and guide your client appropriately.
Well, but it really does help when you talk about the fact that these are the services I provide, these are the fees that I charge. Here's who can cover my compensation. We can ask for the seller to
Mm-hmm.
pay all or some. We could make it part of, and depending on the loan, it might be able to be part of closing costs.
Mm-hmm.
We could increase or negotiate the sales price. But the bottom line here is that when you submit your offer, you're also going to submit your compensation that you're requesting on there.
Correct.
So at this point, you get your buyer brokerage agreement signed, and then make sure that you're
Off to a
scheduled and
good
set up.
start. Yep.
So we hope this is helpful for you. We hope that you can steal from us. This is years of us meeting.
Borrow.
Okay, borrow from us. But like this is years and years of us perfecting our craft and meeting with thousands of buyers over the years. This is how we've done it, and to be both compliant but also to be successful. And so we wish you nothing but that success. And if we can be of any assistance, please give us a holler.
Thank you so much for watching. See you next week.
Bye now.
Take care.